Mirin, you wrote an incredible feature about Paige, and I love the theme that you kind of explored throughout it. Just this thing about Paige trying to learn how to balance the giver and the killer. Now, everything we know about Paige Bueckers, she is incredibly efficient. She is like 55 90 80, like 55 40 80 type of player, just especially for a guard. She's incredibly efficient. She's smart. She's like a supercomputer, and she's incredibly unselfish as well. But heading into this season, not only Paige, but her coach, Geno Auriemma, wanted her to bring out this other side of her. So, like, tell us was that something that was really apparent to you from the start of the story? How did that angle kind of come about?
Yeah, I feel like so many times in sports media, when we're writing about these amazing athletes, there is a tendency to write profiles that are very fawning and very, look at this amazing player. And, then you have like 5 different sources say how amazing they are. Mm-hmm. When you walk into UConn, that's not the vibe. The vibe
that's not Geno, baby.
That's not Geno. The vibe is, here's what needs to be done. Here's what isn't being done. Here's how we're going to get it done. And so I interviewed Geno before I interviewed Paige. And so from immediately, I wanted to talk about resiliency and these, coming back from everything she's come back from. And for him, it was like, well, she's not where we want her to be and where she herself wants to be, which I think is far more interesting than writing just, a puff profile. And so I think the way that he was almost challenging her during our interview made me really hone into that. He used the word selfish again and again. And so I knew that was a theme. The word killer, as sort of the opposite of that, came from the Paige interview. And so that ended up being something that we focused on, because I think a lot of people have covered the injury. A lot of people have covered, her spectacular play. But this being challenged when you are on top of the basketball world, your last year, when you should be receiving nothing but praise, I think is fascinating.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I got to hand it to Geno for basically just setting the tone early. Really great PR work by him and coachmanship at the same time. He's like, this is what I want. She gets plenty of praise. It's like the summer of Paige right now. Right. She's got to get ready to come back to UConn.
Right. So you see these titles? We have bigger fish to fry.
Well, I thought that was really interesting, and I think it's something that he said to you, and it was pretty early in your piece. Like, I'll just quote it: "If for whatever reason we don't win a national championship this year, she'll feel like I'm the best player to ever play at Connecticut that didn't win a national championship." Now, I think really candid and interesting, great reporting on your part. I'll stop fawning over you now, though, and get to the thing that's really that it relates to Paige. Paige has also said in your profile that she was somebody who wants to be a winner on all levels, and you see it in the way she plays. That is, frankly, why she plays the way that she plays, and has never really been the most selfish player. Is always kind of trying to look out for her teammates. Even like the style of play that she has. She's probably screens more than any elite guard that I've ever seen. She's always cutting all over the floor. She's always directing traffic. And I think just the fact, like that fact of the evolution that's going to need to happen is really interesting, but also like she's in a really interesting spot in the program's history right now too, where yes, that quote is absolutely true, but at the same time, this is not the UConn of the past. This is not the college basketball context of the past. And I almost wonder if like walking in those halls, seeing all the banners and all that stuff is like, in some way this season could be a sort of last gasp at trying to capture what was, because, UConn also hasn't won a title since 2016. That's the longest they have gone under Geno not winning a title since he took over as coach. So it's just a really interesting, like, I think inflection point for everybody involved.
I mean, definitely agree. I think that's so well said. It's not like I know when Geno's going to retire, but you better believe this could be his last gasp at it either.
He signed an extension pretty recently, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did pause. I was like, whoa, okay, all right.
Right. Because you wonder like how much longer can you do it? How much longer can you sort of tolerate not being what you were? And I think the rest of college basketball has caught up. I think what's interesting is like, this is not a case of like a coach challenging a player and a player resisting. They're both in full agreement that this is a glaring thing on her resume in her career. They both absolutely know this is the last chance. There's no debate about it. She's not resisting. She's not like, oh no, I want to, be selfless. She's like, no, I've got to adopt that mindset. So I think that is pretty rare. They're on the same page. It is a different UConn program. If you go in the facility, I mean, it's amazing. You see all these players. That's why I started the piece with Maya Moore and Sue Bird and Rebecca Lobo and Diana Taurasi. And it's like, there's all these people, Brianna Stewart, there's all these people that ushered in this era. And I think that quote that you outlined is like the quote nobody wants to say out loud, which is like, yeah, that is going to be a very big deal if it doesn't happen. But I also can appreciate the way Paige is not going about every single day like, I can't be the one that doesn't win the title.
Yeah.
She's focused on the daily things every single day to get better.
Yeah. I think it was really cool how, I think sometimes doing this job, you tend to try to not look at things so black and white. And I think especially for Paige, given the context of the program, given the injury history with her, I wouldn't necessarily look at her college career and say she's not a winner if she doesn't win a national title. I mean, even you look at UConn this year, they're ranked number 2, I believe, but I don't think they're like the shoo-in best team in college basketball right now by any means. If anything, she's somebody who this is why she has to play more selfishly, right? Like this is a younger team, like they have Sarah Strong coming in as a freshman who is an incredible player, but is still adjusting to the game. And and Azzy Fudd is still not back. Obviously, I think things will look different when she's healthy. And if this team is healthy, I think it's a different story. But I think you also kind of have to price in that they probably won't be fully healthy. And it does add a little extra pressure and this sort of, I listened to another podcast that you did too, where you talked about how, he wants her to be a little bit more like Diana Taurasi, where he wants her to, go in for the kill right away. And I'm watching this UConn North Carolina game over the weekend, and you're like, okay, like she's starting to do it. You can see it. Like she opens the game with a 3-pointer, and she closes the quarter with a 3-pointer at the buzzer, where she also like skips in front of the North Carolina bench, and you're like, okay, all right,
iconic.
It's coming along. It's coming along.
It is. I that's what I mean. I really feel like she's embracing it. This isn't like taking it personal. She even said, I came to UConn because I wanted somebody to keep it real with me. And I think that is so rare to have somebody at her caliber say, no, continue to challenge me. I'm not what I need to be. And you can see the way that she's doing it. Like Geno likes to compare it to boxing. He said earlier in her career, she likes to stay back, see what people do. And now it's like, no, you got to throw the first punch. And it's early, but I really think she's doing that.
And tactically, it's been interesting to watch too, because it's not like UConn plays in this way that's really very different than how they normally play. Even Paige, the sets that she's in are very similar. It's just a matter of the decisions that she's making off of them. Like that first 3-pointer, she's setting a screen for Sarah Strong. Then she comes up and hits an open 3, where in the past, maybe she's like, oh, I'm not fully open. Like, let me swing the ball, which she still does. Like, that's still definitely a part of her game. But it's more about the choices that she's making when she's put in these positions, but still existing within the larger context of this very movement oriented offense. And I think it's honestly just a lot of fun to watch. Paige
is like, Paige to me right now, what you're talking about, she really is letting the game come to her. I think there's an ease and a flow that she's playing with that it can only come with maturity. And I think that is so different than, okay, I got to score 20 points in the first, 2 quarters. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to score. That's not her. Like, she's very much in her flow. And it feels like a different level of confidence. And I think it's because it has to be. She has never been in a position where all her teammates are younger than her. She has to be so much more, calmer. Like as a point guard, if you're rattled, the troops look rattled. So I think she is really letting it come to her in ways that I haven't seen before.